Welcome to tip number 56, succession planning, exit planning. This is also something that we could talk about for hours and probably not get to the end. There are some important things when I want to think about getting out of my business. One of the important things is I probably think about that 7 to 10 years before I actually want to get out, because it may take me 5 to 7 years to get the business in a situation where I can get the most out of that business. So if we're going to talk about succession planning, it begins with the idea that there's a point in time where I don't want to do this anymore, or I won't be able to do this anymore, or it's just logically time for me to step down and let somebody else take the reins. When I make that decision, now I have a plan, or I start to develop a plan to get what I want out of my company. So the next step in this is really to determine what you need, and what I would suggest is a financial needs analysis of some type. There are accountants that will do this. There are actually insurance people that will do this. There are other people that will give you a financial needs analysis. And kind of what it is when I retire, what kind of a lifestyle do I want to live? And then how much money do I need, or assets do I need to provide that lifestyle for me? So currently I own a business and I get a paycheck out of that business, and I get profits at the end of the year out of that business, and that allows me to live the lifestyle that I want. But there's going to come a point in time where I'm going to sell that business. I will no longer have that paycheck out of that business. And so the money I get out of that business and the assets that I have need to provide that life for me. So for instance, if I want to live a $300,000 a year lifestyle, because that's the lifestyle that I'm used to, it allows me to go out of the country a couple of times a year, take a nice vacation with my wife, live in a nice home, drive a nice vehicle. It allows me to have health insurance so that I don't have health. If I have health issues, it's not going to bankrupt me, blah, blah, blah. Then I need to get out of my company along with the assets that I have enough that the return on that investment will bring me $300,000, which probably means I need somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 to $4 million in assets or in the bank in order to provide a $300,000 figure. You're going to make 6 to 10%, 6% when the market sucks and 10% when the market's good. And you want to keep up with inflation. You don't want to outlive your money, so you need to take 10% of what you earn on your money. So for instance, if I do earn $300,000, I need to take $30,000, I need to put it back into my investments so that every year I'm overcoming inflation and I'm building, next year we have an extra, a couple $300,000, $400,000 in the bank. And now next year we have another $30,000, and that's going to give me another 8% on that $30,000, which is going to put another, $2,400 into what I get, which will allow me to keep putting that 10% in and keep raising my my assets and my income. So it's important to think about what you need or what you believe you will need, and then it's also important to think about how do I maintain the same spending level even though my money becomes worth less over time, and if I live for the next 30 years, will I be able to maintain the same lifestyle? All right, so let's assume that we've kind of done that. Now, there are some things in my business that are really super important that determine the value of my company. I don't know if I'm going to give you all of them, but I'll give you most of them because I'm doing this off the top of my head. But I'll tell you what probably certainly the 5 or 6 most important are. First is my company profitable, and is it profitable enough? So it's not just good enough to make 3%, but you need to make probably more than 12, maybe even more than 15% on a net profit in order to get the most value out of your company. Now, traditionally, automotive businesses are valued at between 1 and 4 times annual net. So if I made $200,000 in annual net and that was 20%, then I might, if all the other factors were right, I might have a business that's worth $800,000, maybe even nine, accounting assets, equipment and tools and stuff like that. But basically, I need to be making a profit, and 3% is actually going to go against me, as opposed to 9% or 12% or 15%, and certainly 20% is going to give me the opportunity to get the most value out of my company. And so that's one of the reasons why we work with clients to get them 20% net out of their company and help them to do that, because it creates the most valuable for them. Now, the second piece there is not just do I have net, but I need to have consistent net. For instance, I've been looking at another company to buy, and in the last 3 years, they had one really great year. They had 1 year where they actually lost money, and they had another year where it was a mediocre year. So out of 3 years, they're not maintaining their profits, and that actually reduces the value of the company. Now, it's not an automotive company, so it's not a 1 to 4, but it does reduce the value of the company. So not only do I need to have a good net, but I need to have consistency in that net, kind of a year over year, and I probably need the last 3 to 5 years to show a growth. Now, I could show a 12%, 15%, 18%, 20%, where the growth is growing, and that would be huge. That would be a big plus. And then I would still probably get the maximum out of it, but what I couldn't show is a 12%, 18%, 12%, 6%, 15%. That would actually be detrimental to the value of my company. So there's another piece of the pie. Number 3 is growth in the company. So not only growth in the profit dollars. So maybe I'm always making 20%, but 1 year 20% is $200,000, another year it's $220,000, and then it's $240,000. It's growth in the company itself, and the best growth in a company is an 8 to 12%, kind of a consistent growth. So if I'm growing my company by 8%, and there are things that are kind of natural growth things. So if I'm smart and I'm doing a cost of living increase of 3%, then I'm going to see every year, then I'm going to see some growth in my company every year. As parts prices increase, I'm going to see growth in my company, because that same water pump that I put on 2 years ago now is $20 more, and so we're going to have more sales. And then it's important that I hold my margin, because even if I have growth in my company with car count or with dollars, but my margin drops, then I don't get the benefit out of it that I want. So I really want to have kind of a consistent 8 to 10% growth within my company, and my marketing and what I do is designed to help me do that, and I'm going to pay attention to that. Now, there's a couple of other things that are also super important. What does the owner do in the company? If you are an owner that plays tech, writes service, manages the company, if you're a hands-on, in the middle of everything owner, that's going to go against you. That's a check mark on the negative side, and that's going to reduce the value of the company, because when I buy it, I don't really necessarily want to do all those jobs. I mean, I'd be capable of doing all those jobs. I may have to hire somebody to do some of those jobs. And if you are an owner that's got your name on the business, and customers come in and say, "Hey, Cecil, good to see you," then when you leave, it's going to actually hurt the business some. It might be 5%, 10%, 15%, but it's going to hurt the business that you're not there. And so that's going to reduce the value. Now, if you're not the face of the company, and you're able to, let's say you're an owner who really manages, doesn't write service, doesn't work on cars, comes out occasionally from behind from the office and shakes a customer's hand, an old customer that they see, remember. Customers don't even need to know that you're the owner. Then when I buy your business and I step in and become the owner, there's not much of a transition, and it's much more likely that business is going to continue and move forward. So if you're an owner who who is very active within your company, and you want to create the most value out of your company so that you leave and have the ability to leave, then it makes the most sense really to find a good service advisor, let them do their job, teach them how, find good techs, and then kind of step back from the day-to-day work of the company. I think another thing that's really important in creating value, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff, so we're not quite done, but in creating value is the lease on the property or the ability to buy the property. The longer the lease or the ability to buy the property will create the most value. If you have a business that has a year left on your lease and you want me to come in and buy it, I would tell you right now I won't buy it. I wouldn't buy a business with a very short-term lease because I've seen too many shops where basically the owner of the property had someone come in, offer more money than the shop owner could give them, and then all of a sudden the shop had no place to do business. I've actually seen 3 or 4 companies shut down. One huge company was doing over $3 million in business in San Francisco, disappeared within a year because they basically lost their lease on the property because the owner sold it to a big development group, and now there's high-rises there and their shop doesn't exist. So you need to secure either a long-term lease, 5-year with a couple of 5-year options, 3-year with a 5-year option, or 3 with 2 3s, or you need to have the ability to sell the property to the person so that they have control over their environment and where they are. Those things are going to create the best value in your company. And there's a few other factors. Neighborhood probably plays into it a little bit. Average repair order could play into it a little bit. But if you have low average repair order, then you probably have low profit. And that's going to affect it greater. So those things play in. Now let's talk a little more about succession planning. I've helped lots of owners move on from their businesses to different things and bring people in. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to find someone that wants to buy your business 5 to 7 years from now. We create a plan for them where they can earn phantom stock. Phantom stock is interesting in the United States because I can issue this phantom stock to somebody and it has very little value until there's an event meaning we sell the business. When we sell the business, the phantom stock gains its full value. So I could entice someone to buy my business over the course of 5 to 7 years, help them earn 15, 20, maybe even 30% of my company in phantom stock, and then it's very easy for them to go to the bank and get the money. I know that there are a lot of business owners that want to carry the note on their business, and frankly, from my perspective, I would advise anyone not to do that. I've seen too many shops, someone takes over, they pay someone 50 grand or 100 grand, they owe them another 300,000. After 2 years, they're no longer making the payments because the business is gone. They've beat it to death. They've ruined all the equipment, so there's nothing there. And now I have an owner that's been in retirement for 2 years that never really got paid for his business, coming back to a disaster, and then spending the next 3 to 5 years trying to build it back up. It's a mistake. It's a bad thing. I just don't recommend that you do it that way. I would much rather have you help someone earn 15, 20% so they can go to the SBA and get a loan and you can get your money. And I know there are tax consequences, but with a good tax lawyer, we can work some of those things out and still keep a lot of that money. But the key here is that you have a plan. You need to plan, and you need to plan 5 to 7 years ahead in order for you to get out with the most and feel comfortable and then be able to live your life and be financially secure.
We hope you enjoyed this week's tip. For more information on the concepts we discussed, check out our upcoming classes at www.ifrabe.com/classes, or listen to the Leading Edge podcast at institutesleadingedge.podbean.com, where we discuss business topics just like this one with a panel of industry experts. You can also contact us whenever it's convenient, and we'll set up a free consultation on how the Institute can help you better your business, your life, and the industry as a whole. We'll see you guys next week.